for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Alhamdulillah. So looks like it's time. We're going to start, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, all thanks and praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the whole universe. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah. And I bear witness that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Peace be upon all of you, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to our program, the Spiritual Fireside Chat. Inshallah, tonight we have two very special guests with an important topic. Tonight's topic is going to be faith formation, role of parents and mentors of building the Muslim identity, inshallah. And our speakers will be Brother Abdullah al-Mamun and then Sister Basmah, Salam, inshallah. And Brother Abdullah will talk first about the roles of parents, and later Sister Basmah will talk about the roles of mentors, inshallah, each approximately 15 minutes. And then we will open it up for the questions at the end. And please post your questions anytime during our program. So I'll check those questions and ask for our speakers. And then also, once we finish the lecture part, the presentation part, we're going to continue with our Salat al-Isha program as usual. So let me introduce our first speaker, Brother Abdullah al-Mamun. Brother Abdullah is the Senior Director of Advancement at Bayan, a role in which he works on organizational development, fundraising, and student recruitment. He is an activist, public speaker, entrepreneur, advisor to boards, and also is a nationally recognized director with experience in professional leadership and management experience in both nonprofit and for-profit sectors. He completed his undergraduate studies at Fordham University with a BA degree in Middle Eastern Studies and Business Administration. Afterwards, he completed his graduate studies from New York University in Graphic Communication Management and Technology. So he lives in Dallas, Texas, with his wife and their 3 sons. May God bless them all. And please welcome Brother Abdullah al-Mamun.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much to your community, to you for having us here today. Thank you so much to the Islamic Center of Southern California for having us talk about this very important topic. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil mursaleen. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses this auspicious night, the Friday night from our religion. Thursday evening is Friday night, the day of Jum'ah. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless this gathering and let the angels surround us, especially because we're talking about this very important topic of faith formation. And inshallah, as the Sheikh mentioned, I'll be talking about the role that parents have in building this Islamic identity or the Muslim identity that we often want to convey to our children. Alhamdulillah, in the world, we have about 7.7 billion people. Out of that, about 1.8 of them, a billion, are Muslims. In America alone, depending on which survey you listen to, which one you look at, anywhere between 3 million to 12 million and everything in between, right? Depending on which actual survey you want to listen to. There's approximately 3,000, even though it's 2,700, 600 something masajid in America, but there's always a new one popping up in our communities, alhamdulillah. There is a masjid in every single state in America. In South Dakota, where no one really lives, there's masajid there, mashallah. I actually know people that live there. There's always some sort of presence of Islam all across the country, mashallah. And when we look at what's happening around us in our communities, we see that people are accepting Islam. We hear about it, that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. We hear about it, the fact that there are so many people accepting Islam in the prisons. People are accepting Islam daily, subhanAllah. According to Pew Research, about 100,000 people accept Islam every year. Now, the question that we often don't ask is how many people actually remain within Islam? How many people leave Islam? Based on several statistics that I found, for every 10 that accept Islam, subhanAllah, about 7 leave. According to the Pew Research that was done back in 2019, for adults that were raised as Muslim, 24% of them, unfortunately, do not identify as Muslims anymore. We do have a crisis in that aspect, which is that there are people that are leaving the faith because Islam was not formed in their hearts or in their practice. And there's a number of reasons why that occurred. Inshallah, today's conversation, in today's presentation, I just want to pose some ideas and pose some solutions for us to be able to make sure that we are doing that work. Because even, it may be easy to say, but very difficult to to do. And it's a lifelong process for us to implement these procedures and these solutions, inshallah ta'ala. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the things that perhaps we forget is the fact that our children see us do and practice. They practice, imitate what we practice and what we do, not what we say. And oftentimes we tell them these are the things that needs to be done, but it is not what we say, but it is what we do, they follow. If I had a little bit longer time and if we were in person, there is a story that I like sharing, but I don't know if it's gonna get translated well via webcam, but I'll do my best, inshallah ta'ala. My family is originally from Bangladesh. Bangladesh is actually historically famously known for the Royal Bengal tiger. And where my dad grew up, where he was born, in that village, there were actual tigers, man-eating tigers. And there's a story that I was told when I was younger that stated that a tiger was hunting for food for about 3 days. It was really hungry. It was going from town to town. It was going through the farms. And all of a sudden, it notices that it came to a town and it notices a farm where they had some sheep and some lamb. And it hit the jackpot, right? It was about to get some food. It's going to eat. It's going to have a feast, inshallah. And it's praying, not praying, but praying, right? It's looking for that food that they can get. So while it's doing that, while it's doing its research, it comes across a baby cub or a baby tiger. And he forgets about his hunger because he sees this cub being bullied by the sheep, by the lamb that's around it. And it's trying to speak the language of the sheep, language of the lambs, but it gets bullied and it gets moved away. So instead of going after the lamb, instead of going after the sheep, the tiger decides to go pounce on that baby cub, takes it by the neck and brings it into the forest. And this baby cub is saying, let me go, don't eat me, let me go as a sheep. It's crying in the sheep language. The tiger says, what are you talking about? You're not a lamb, you're a tiger. Look, you have the same claws as me. You have the same whiskers as me, the same tail as me. We are tigers. We're the king of the jungle here. What happened is that the farmers found this cub while they were hunting or while they were gathering food, and it got abandoned, and it brought it back, and it was raised with the sheep. Now, the reason why I give that story is because oftentimes our children, we treat them like lambs, whereas they are like us. We want to say that we are tigers and lions in the sense that we have some responsibilities on our shoulders, and that is to carry out the religion of Islam, preaching it and practicing it around us. So what I would say for us to take away as parents to implement this concept of identity and what our responsibilities are is to teach our children through action. And that is, number one, going back to the Quran and Sunnah, going back to what the Prophet ﷺ did, right? What did he do? He mentored, he looked and put effort behind the younger folks, right? If we look at the 5 Abdullahs, right? The Prophet ﷺ spent tremendous amount of effort building them up. If we look at the first few companions, all of them were young. The people that implemented Islam all were young. Some of the greatest scholars of Islam, when they first came, especially in the early stages of Islam, all were young, the youth. How that happened? Because the Prophet ﷺ gathered them around him. He motivated them, he guided them. Similarly, as we love the Prophet ﷺ, peace be upon him, the most, we should gather ourselves in trying to imitate that practice. Let's be intentional in the way we do our work. In trying to raise our children, let's try to do what the Prophet ﷺ did. Be intentional in our work to guide our children, to teach them, be focused. When the Prophet ﷺ spoke to even to a child, he faced them, not like this, right? He didn't go away. He focused. He looked at the camera in the sense that he looked at someone's face. Even when a baby, a 5-year-old child, when his bird died, the Prophet ﷺ went to him with charisma, with empathy, and said, you know, what was it like? How are you feeling? He was there. Whereas perhaps we don't imitate that sunnah, and we should. Perhaps we need to look into that prophetic tradition and see how the empathy of the Prophet ﷺ was there. And that once we start practicing that, I am guaranteeing you, you will see that happening with our children. Alhamdulillah, as the Sheikh mentioned, we have 3 boys in different ages. We have teenagers, we have the ones that are in the middle, and then we have even a toddler. We're at a friend's house right now. He's making a mess. But you know, we go through these things. But we do know that when we practice a certain act, our children will start imitating that, because that's how they learn. The first teachers are their parents. Secondly, what I would encourage you all is something that perhaps we need to really emphasize upon, which is for us to learn more, make sure that we make an attempt to constantly update our knowledge. You learn from the cradle to the grave. That is what is required of our deen. It is required that we know as much as we can and constantly improve. But that's one thing. But the other thing is that start reading those books that are out there that helps us to understand our child better, or children better. Because the issues that they face today is not the same issues that perhaps when you grew up, when we grew up, it is not the same. There is a saying that says that raise your children not based on where your grandparents are buried, but where your grandchildren will be raised. That is what home is considered. And this is home for us. I grew up in New York City, as the Sheikh mentioned. For us, we had an attitude that, you know, we have back home and this is our adopted home, or this is just a place that we stay. That attitude cannot be there. This is our home. This is our responsibility now. And while we're here, we need to learn more. If we were to go to have a job, get a new job, we start learning, we start reading, we start researching. Similarly, when it comes to becoming a new parent, you know, we should look into different parental techniques and what's out there. What is modern sciences telling us? Looking into that, trying to also get coaches involved. Because perhaps when we were younger, perhaps when the way we were doing things was not, that was one way of doing it, and perhaps it was the best way to do it. But it has changed. Time has evolved. There's other circumstances around, right? 10, 20 years ago, we didn't have an iPhone. We didn't have, you know, smartphones. We have new devices now, the different distractions and techniques and issues and good things. So we need to be able to look at what the coaches, what the experts are looking at. Right, that's something that we should perhaps look into. The third thing that I think Sister Basmah is going to look more into it, and she'll talk more about it, is making sure that we surround ourselves with good people. And from those good people is where our children will get mentors. Because these influences, although, you know, we do need to protect our children from these webcams and online outlets, meaning that you're opening up your home to the world when you give access to your children to the webcam or some of these you know, social media communication mechanisms. That's understood. I think a lot of us, alhamdulillah, parents are very protective of that, and I think we could do better. That's one thing. I want to focus on the positive side of it, which is that the one that we are conscious about, we need to surround ourselves with good friends. Because those good friends are the ones that your children will also look up to, or also say, you know what, that uncle or that aunt or that friend, does it this way. So perhaps, we want to start imitating. I try to play basketball twice or 3 times a week. My oldest son, I'm not a good basketball player, I'll be honest, right? But my friends, they're very good basketball players. My brother is a very good basketball player. So at least he knows that I'm trying, I'm there, I'm there to have fun. But the skill set, there are people around me that he can go learn from. There are certain things that I'm really, really good at, alhamdulillah, that I try to support my friends and their children if they have any questions. There's actually a young man that reached out to me about a specific topic that I'm super interested in. And that's something that I always study. He's like, can you help me decipher this issue? He's not my son, but he's the son of someone, my friends, meaning that you want to be able to have that community around you, that where you will take one another and develop. So it is said that it takes a village to raise a child. So when you are there, make sure you have people around you that's going to help you. And this is the way to actually get mentors. And inshallah, Sister Basmah is going to go into that. I think, one of the other things that we often forget is that, as the Prophet ﷺ did, constantly educate yourself and surround yourself with friends. And when you do that, inshallah, what happens is that even if you make mistakes, which we will do, we are human beings, people progress, people come and understand, and they try to understand your heart. And the last thing is that lead by action. Go do service. Go help people. Go take care of your people. Meaning, like, if you don't live with your parents, call your parents, because when your child gets older, they will imitate you by what you're doing now, or they'll do what you're doing now. So if you're not calling your parents, you can't expect your children to do that. If you are, angry with your parents, if you don't talk to them, if you, constantly disagree. I mean, again, we may not agree with our parents, but at least you have to have some sort of mercy, and some sort of way you deal with them has to be with ihsan, with kindness, right? With excellence. You teach that to your child without saying it. You teach them by doing it. So you have to have service. The Prophet ﷺ said, the best amongst you are the ones that are best to their neighbors. The best amongst you are the ones that are best to their wives or best to their families, right? For us to be the best, we have to start practicing that sunnah. I know it goes back to what the Prophet ﷺ did, but it's also in this specific case, the last point that I wanted to make is that we have to practice these acts of service. And that service is helping the people around us. And as we help the people around us, our children will see, and because of them seeing us, they'll help. Today, my wife got groceries from the store, and I was in a meeting. I paused my meeting and went to help her. And our toddler started grabbing items and bringing into the kitchen from the garage. Him doing it, not that, I asked him, he saw me doing it, he was imitating me. And that's something that you will see happening when you start practicing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our children. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raise our children in a way that is going to be the coolness of our eyes, and in a way that is pleasing to Allah, and allow us to enter Jannah together. Jazakumullah khair.
Wa iyyakum. Thank you so much, Brother Abdullah, for this beautiful presentation. And I can totally relate. I have 2 boys. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your sons and all of our kids. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. And dear brothers and sisters, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you have any question for our speakers, please post them, and at the end I will ask. So now our next speaker is going to be Sister Basmah Salam, inshallah. She is the Director of Development at Bayan. She manages and operationalizes strategic plans to fulfill its mission through financial sustainability and community support. She earned her bachelor's degree from the University of Houston, followed by her master's in public administration with a specialization in nonprofit management. She is now working on her second master's degree in Islamic studies at Bayan. She volunteers with her local Houston nonprofits that focus on Islamic education, special needs, and public service in the community. She is an advocate for addressing mental health and violence against women. So please welcome Sister Basmah. Salam.
Salam alaikum. Thank you so much for having me today. I feel very blessed to be sharing in this space with all of you. Alhamdulillah, I can be sitting in Houston at 9:51, and alhamdulillah, you are over there in sunny California at 7:51. And alhamdulillah, you know, this is the world that Allah has blessed us with. And there's you know, especially in COVID, I think we've learned to embrace these blessings. So thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So where I want to start is that, you know, I told Abdullah, I was like, hey, Abdullah, you take the parenting part, I'll do the mentoring part, because I'm not a parent, but alhamdulillah, I'm an aunt, and I take that very seriously. And I've also been a school administrator for 5 years prior to joining Bayan, where I would basically tell you that I have 200 children. So alhamdulillah, that was a blessed experience. And ever since then, I've continued working with those children as well. And now I am working at Bayan, but also I'm a Bayan student. Therefore, a lot of what I'm going to be introducing here is actually from not just experiences, but actually my academic understandings of this topic. So first of all, with what Abdullah was just, I'm going to draw a little bit from mashallah, Abdullah's various really good points. You know, Abdullah was talking about, you know, surrounding ourselves with good people. And I want to emphasize that because it does take a village. Mom and dad, or just a single parent by themselves, it's just not going to be as fruitful of an experience as it can be for your child if you surround yourself and allow yourself to have that support in that village. And it's not just about the child, but it's for your own sake too, okay? Because parents need friends, parents need a break. So it takes a village. And therefore, it's like this holistic environment of faith formation where you have parents and you have mentors. You can't, it doesn't have to be one or the other. We don't have to do it like that. Both are important in their own ways. Children, you know, I think brothers, you both mentioned it, you know, they're so brilliant. They're resilient. They're very resilient, especially like they can just fall down as many times as, you know, it's like, mashallah, it's like a basketball, you know, and they're so resilient, but don't discount them because they do have their wisdom, like Abdullah was speaking about. So here's the thing. Abdullah mentioned this, and I'm going to stress on it again because I have a specific interest in theology. 24% of people who were raised Muslim in the United States left Islam. This was a Pew Research study of 2017. 24% raised Muslims in America left Islam. On top of that, of those 24%, 55% identify with no religion. What that tells me is they don't even identify with God at all. And that is so painful, because what is happening that is causing our kids to do that? And I think that, you know, this is a multi-pronged effort between parents and mentors that we need to take into consideration. And this is kind of where I want to focus my piece, because, you know, if our children are not even remaining as Muslims, then who do we have left to parent and mentor? So when I said that children are brilliant, resilient, they're wise, they see it, they know it, you know, we think they don't, but they really, really do. And then you find out at very weird times that they know this. You know, like, we have to understand that if they are questioning things about our faith, even if they're 5 or they're 10 or whatever, we need to answer them. And that, therefore, like Abdullah said, we have to educate ourselves. And it's not just the parents, the rest of us, we have to educate ourselves. And if we don't know the answer, there's this awesome thing called I don't know, okay? La adri, okay? I don't know, Allahu Alam, you know, so we have these are amazing. And we have these, we have our internet, and we can find out, but we don't have to just dismiss their questions and their thoughts and their opinions on things. We don't have to tell them they're wrong. We just have to work through it with them. It's a process. So when our child says, and I have had a number of children who say things like this, it's like, well, why did Allah do it like this? If Allah wants all of us to go to Jannah, then why are we even on this earth going through the trials if we're just supposed to go into Jannah? Like, why do I have to go through the pain? You know, like a 10-year-old asking you that, it's heartbreaking, but it's also making you see that this is their reality. A 10-year-old can be in emotional pain. 5-year-old can, you know, and alhamdulillah for those who are able to articulate that pain, because not all of them can. So we need to remember that even our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he stood on a mountain and he had doubts. He thought Allah has forsaken him. If the Prophet, the most beloved person to ever exist, had doubts about how Allah feels about him, what about us? What about that 10-year-old kid who's saying why? We need to not discount that, and we need to even tell him or her that this is something that even the Prophet dealt with. You're not alone. If you don't want to admit yourself that, hey, I've struggled with this problem too in my life, use the Prophet. Okay, he's a good fallback for all things. So use him and refer to him, because his example is one to last us for a lifetime. A class I recently took, and the title of it's very jarring, but stick with me. It's called The Psychology of White Christian Hegemony and Supremacy. And this class was taught at Bayan. It was taught by a Muslim woman. She's hijabi, African-American, PhD. And this class was taken with, half Muslims and half Christians. And it was like the most beautiful conversations emerged from that class. And what it really came down to is that we are a product of our environmental cues, whether if they're subtle or they're very pronounced. Like for example, when I used to go to the masjid as a girl, I knew to look for the back entrance. I knew to go there. I knew that my father's gonna go from the front. I have to go look for the back entrance. I was a kid, but as I grew older, I realized, wait, is that necessary? But why? And so we start to question things, and then we realize, you know what? We should really make this different for our kids, because we don't want our daughters thinking that there's something wrong with them because they're girls. Being a girl is really hard as it is. So we don't want that. Similarly, another issue that even occurs with boys, like coming from overseas, many of our parents are, first generation here. Coming from overseas, there's been a lot of issues surrounding skin color. And, when those of us who would play outside, our light brown skin got darker brown or things like that, or like when it came to marriage and your children are going to look too dark if you marry him or you marry her, things like that. These things really cling to a child from a really young age. And they equate that with is this beautiful or is this not beautiful? But the thing is, if we treat the children and teach them that they are all beautiful in their own ways, in all their skin tones, then we are accepting them. And when you accept someone into your community, they're going to want to stay in your community. They're going to want to be Muslim. And this brings me to another theory I learned in the class with Dr. Jihad Safir. Some of you must know him. He's in LA. You know, he talked to us about triggering, not trigger like as in not necessarily trigger like, you know, we post things online and we say, hey, trigger warning, right? Triggering as in whenever you see that kid, say salam. Because the other 6 days of the week, no one says salam to that kid. But you say salam because, and you reconnect that child with Islam. Every single time that, you know, you make sure that you go and you smile at that girl who's sitting there in a hijab that's actually making her pretty nervous, and for good reasons, right? Go say salam to her and make her feel proud that, you know what, someone's saying salam to me in front of all these people, and this is like our thing. This is our thing as Muslims. We say salam, you know, and so then she feels accepted into the community. And when you continuously trigger children with these things, like you just trigger them, like, hey, remember, you're Muslim and you're awesome. That helps them take pride and stick around, you know, be like, you know what, there might be something here. And part of this is that I'm going to skip around a little bit, but part of this is showing them there's also something called the possible selves theory. And what that means is that we all see something of ourselves in our heads about who we will be or who we are today. Children have that too. And children think about, who will I be in 10 years, 20 years, you know? They think they're going to have jet black hair when it's actually being gray, but it's like, but we don't have to tell them that part, but we do tell them that, you know, dream big, and not but and remember that you are Muslim and then everything else. You are Muslim and then everything else. This is called identity salience. I'm going to stop with the academic terms. I'm sorry. So possible selves theory makes sure that children are, you know, thinking about, well, yeah, if, you know, putting all politics and things aside. Okay. So like, yeah, Ilhan Omar is a Muslim woman, a Black immigrant Muslim woman wearing a hijab in the United States Congress. You know, when you see that, then you think that's something I could do. You know, like I could become, if I can't become a masjid board leader, I'm gonna go to Congress, right? It's like, so it's so there's let them explore the fact that there's possibilities for them, and it doesn't have to be engineer, doctor, housewife. You know, it can be so much more. And you know, this reminded me when I was thinking about it. It reminded me of Hassan and Hussein, the grandchildren of the Prophet ﷺ. And true, they're grandchildren of the Prophet ﷺ, but also obviously they were mentored by him. And what I found interesting in one of their stories is that they once happened upon a man in Medina who was making wudu, and they saw this man and they're like, oh man, he's doing it all wrong. Like, what do we do? And it's like, if we go and correct him, he's going to be embarrassed and all this. Hassan and Hussein are thinking about the fact that what they do and how it'll affect the man. Where do you think they learned that empathy? Right? And they ended up asking the man for help. They both made wudu and said, can you tell us which one of us is right? And the man realized that he was doing it wrong. And that's how, and then he said that is the day I learned wudu. You know, but there was a way there was a way to do something. And there is a wisdom with which Hassan and Hussein came upon that. I am going to wrap out just right here. I think I'm running over, right? And then the last thing I wanted to say that, like, you know, like we talk about these theologians and philosophers, and yes, we can say the word philosophers when it comes to like Ibn Sina and Ibn Khaldun and so forth. What we have to remember is that they engaged in something called dialectical reasoning. They engaged, when they talked to people about Islam, they used logic and rationality, and not just that, hey, of course there's a God, how do you think the sun comes up? But rather than that, they actually broke it all down. And so if that is how they were engaging, not just with non-Muslims, but also with Muslims, and they were having these debates going back and forth, then that is how we should be with each other too, and with their kids. Let them say what they need to say, and then address it with them, not just at them, you know. And I kind of jumped, but you know, in terms of like the possible selves, you know, one of the people I learned about in the last couple of years that I am so overwhelmed by is Sayyidina Fatima al-Fihriya. She was the first, she built the first university in the world. This woman back in Fez, Morocco, built the first university in the world. It was a masjid and then it became a university. But it was, of all the people who could have done this, it was a devout Muslim woman who did. And these are things that we need to make our kids think about, that you come from a long line of very powerful, imaginative, intellectual people. So remember that. And I think I'm gonna stop there so that I'm gonna stop scrolling.
Thank you so much, Sister Basmah, for such a beautiful presentation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless both of you. And I'm looking if there's any question from our audience. I don't see any questions so far. But before we move on, I would like to also get your maybe last words, starting with Brother Abdullah. In the meantime, if there is any question, I will definitely, inshallah, ask those questions. So before we end our program, Brother Abdullah, do you have any last words to our community members from your perspective, especially for those who have, you know, little kids? And you shared most of your reflections, but as a last word, what would be your?
I'm going to give you an example of what Basma said and what I said. When I moved, I live in Dallas. Basma lives in Houston. We're Texans tonight.
Oh, great.
Mashallah. You know, when I moved to Dallas from New York about 8 years ago, I specifically moved to a location where it had, in my opinion, the best qari in Dallas. He's a very, you know, dear person to me. So I moved and moved my, I got the apartment right next to his institution. And I wanted my, at that time, 2 sons to study with the sheikh so that it's a minute away from the school and we'll be there. We lived there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of my sons were interested in memorizing the Quran. And we moved to another location, and which was, again, 2 minutes away from the masjid. And I took my son, again, it has one of the best programs in the country. People move from all over the country, in fact, from other parts of the world to study with the shuyukh that we have in our masjid. The sheikh took me to the side and said, Abdullah, don't waste your money. Your son is not interested. I said, all right, no problem. After a couple of years of doing this, so 4 or 5 years have passed. And I wanted him to memorize the Quran, both of them to memorize the Quran, because you have some amazing scholars here in Dallas, especially those that can recite, mashallah. And I wanted them to study. However, that wasn't happening. Earlier actually in the middle of 2021, my eldest son comes up to me and says, I want to start Hifz. I want to enroll into Hifz. You know, inside, I'm jumping up and down. I'm like, SubhanAllah, it's amazing, right? I love it. I wanted him to do it. It wasn't because I told him to do it. It wasn't because his mom, it wasn't that. What happened is that 15 of his friends got together. They're like, yeah, inshallah, we'll do Hifz. Each one of them are going to go to different places. Now, this is just the Hifz example. It could be for anything else. SubhanAllah, we had a young man that came forward and started teaching our children in our community very different acts of ibadah, ihsan, in excellence in everything that you do, being kind to one another, being proud of the fact that you're Muslim, being proud of the fact that you are you, right? Giving them that pride and giving them that self-courage. And happened because this young man was pushing it. Obviously, he was growing and he was trying to teach that to the kids that he was teaching. And that drove these young men, mashallah, to say, you know what, we are going to do this because they felt this was important. They felt this was valuable to them. So what I want everyone to take away, and what I took away from this story is that, yes, there might be something that I really want to do, but your child needs to be shown. You need to surround yourself with people that if you can't get it done, perhaps someone else. I don't have a good jump shot in basketball, but my brother and the people around me, they're very good. So my son now, mashallah, the oldest one, has a phenomenal jump shot because he didn't learn it from me. He learned it from the people that I try to surround him with. So it's important as a parent for you to try to do what you want to do, but get people around you that are also in that mindset, in that same frame of mind.
Great. Thank you so much, Brother Abdullah. And I have two questions. It's great. So before I get the last word of Sister Basmah, maybe she can respond this question and I can get your perspective as well, Brother Abdullah. And the question is, when surrounding your children with the right people, how would a parent approach this if some people who they are not healthy from their children's values or mindset include family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, etc.? So Sister Basmah, let's start with you and then we can get Brother Abdullah's perspective as well, inshallah.
Abdullah, do you want to go first?
Sure.
If I can go. I just see your face.
Well, it's a very technical question because
Yeah.
I'm looking at the question and that's why I'm smiling. Okay. Because I when she talked about gray hair, like I have gray hair all over right now, unfortunately, or fortunately, alhamdulillah. And one of the things is that you do have toxic family members. That is unfortunately the case for many of us. Maybe we are toxic to others. And what we need to realize is that our children are our responsibility. So we need to protect them from those toxicities. However, with that said, there's also another aspect of it. Perhaps they are toxic, perhaps they have that negative impact upon them, but there are still obligations that our children need to do. So let's say, for instance, the grandparents, again, I'm not saying mine, I'm just saying as an example, the grandparents are very toxic, they're ill-mannered, or they cuss, or they do something that is inappropriate, right? And you don't want your child to be in that. However, with that there said, what you need to do is still let them know there is an obligation that you have to fulfill as a child, as a son, as a grandchild, right? As a daughter, that you have to fulfill towards your parents. You deal with them through ihsan, through excellence, whatever best way possible. So you do maintain that distance, but at the same time, you make sure that you fulfill your responsibility. You do not neglect them. You do not avoid them. You do not say, that's it, I'm not talking to you because you do X, Y, and Z, right? You don't live in Texas, I'm not talking to you, right? You can't have that mindset. It has to be a lot more friendly, and you have to do your part as a Muslim, as a believer, they have obligations. They have obligations upon you. They have rights upon you that you have to fulfill. And you do that part with ihsan, with excellence, and your child, you teach them that. And with that, automatically, they'll notice that there is that bad behavior or bad habit that they may have that you don't approve of. They do it, but you still maintain that kinship, you still maintain that relationship with your parent, with those relatives of yours.
Okay, we have, I'm sorry, we have two questions here, Sister Basmah. If you wish to, are you planning to respond to this one, or should we go for the question?
I was just going to tack on to what Abdullah just said.
Then I'll ask the question.
And I was really glad, Abdullah, that you mentioned the rights of children, that the rights that we have on our parents. And remember that, it is a parent's duty to protect them. And at the same time, there has to be balance, right? Because you can't just keep your kids from your grandparents, right? So figure out what that balance is and teach your kid that, hey, that thing that happened, not okay, not your fault, but this is what you should do when that thing occurs again with your grandparent or something like that. Similarly, I have friends who, their children go over on the weekend to their ex-husband's home, and then they kind of come back because whether it's the ex-husband or other family members, whoever, and they come back and they're just like frazzled, and their brains are just on another place, and they have to spend like at least 2 days getting them back to normal, before they can like continue with their week. But they've had to teach their kids over and over again that when you are not in the safety of my home and you go to another home where things are not like they are here, then this is how you deal with it. So that's a very like grown up conversation, I guess, that we have to have, but we have to have it.
Great, thank you. So we have two more questions and one comment. I'm just going to go with the comment first. The comment is, thank you for your presentation. I think it is so important for Bayan to connect with the mosques and encourage higher level of education in the community for old and young. So this is the comment. And then the question is, with the loss of our youth from Islam, is Bayan working to reach out to engage them? So whoever wants to take, inshallah.
So if we look at like some of the reasons why, Abdullah and I kind of identified that some of the reasons why our youth aren't really sticking with Islam is because there's no one that's really holding them here. They're just kind of drifting off into space and not being grounded. And, like one of the ways that we can do a better job of that is by having in our masajid the imams that can relate, and having in our masajid women in leadership who can relate, and having in our schools and different places in the community and organizations that hold events, a place for kids to go to on a Friday night when their friends are all at the party, right? Like having these different things make it possible for children to continue coming back. That trigger thing I was talking about, they're constantly triggered. So part of what like Bayan is offering is that we are training and educating our leaders. We are making the people that actually come into Bayan to study, they are already leaders in their own rights in their own communities, and they're using Bayan to enhance their knowledge and their training. So part of our mission is that, we enroll students from all across the country. And then we've got our students who are training to become, improve as imams, have chaplains, which is a big deal right now, getting Muslim chaplains everywhere.
We don't have enough.
We don't have enough. Like if you look at the job search for chaplains, it's just like it doesn't end. And then also I wanted to say that we started something super cool this year with the and it was kind of based off the idea of Fatima Al-Fihriya, is that we started this scholarship called the Muslimah Changemaker Scholarship, because we recognize that there are a lot of women out there who are ready to study and we're looking around like, hey, we need women to fill these positions in our masajid and stuff, because hey, everyone keeps saying we need female leaders, but like, where are they? So therefore, we realized, let's set up this scholarship, which we did, and now we have women coming through the scholarship who would not otherwise have been able to financially, and they are already leaders in their own rights in their communities, and we are like giving them a huge boost up. So it's things like that we're doing. But Abdullah, do you want to?
Yeah, so the question was that with the loss of our youth from Islam,
yeah,
one thing that I wanted to re-emphasize is that we oftentimes just look at America, but the reality is that this is not just in America, unfortunately, it's around the world. The only reason we can really state clearly here in America, this is what's happening. Well, number one is because the research is done in America. But if you look at just surveys and what's happening in the Muslim world around the world, right, you'll notice that people are moving away from faith or faith identity. And what we are doing at Bayan is we're not trying to engage the youth, as Basmah mentioned, but we're trying to empower and provide the resources needed to imams and leaders of the community, empower them with the necessary tools so they can become more civically engaged. They can be more focused on how to bring and attract these young men and women back into Islam, or at least for them to feel that this is what Islam is. So we want to equip them with that. So we are not teaching people how to fish. We are teaching the people to teach how to fish. So we are taking one step further back.
Thank you so much, Brother Abdullah and Sister Basmah. This is definitely a huge challenge, for our youth and young ones, not only for Muslims, for other faith
Absolutely.
communities as well. If you look at Christianity and Judaism, they are struggling with the same, challenges. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. And one last question, and with that, we will finish, inshallah. And the question is, what is the best way to start teaching little kids about religion? I know you covered a little bit, Brother Abdullah, if you can tackle this question, and then we can get Sister Basma's perspective, and then finish with this, inshallah. Go ahead, please.
When I was younger, much younger, I actually taught children. I had about, when I got a little bit older, I mentored about 3,500 young men across the country, alhamdulillah. I was a youth director about 15 years ago or so. And one of the things that I've learned from dealing with these sorts of individuals, well, I'll give my own example with the toddler. He is so stubborn. I mean, I'm thinking it's from me, but I don't know. I mean, he's really, really stubborn, right? And he will not say the dua that he needs to say. He's not going to say it. Now, will I fight him? No. What I've been doing is I just say it, and when he says it, he says it. And your former imam, our current boss, Imam Jihad Turk, I learned this from him, that he speaks to his children in Fusha Arabic. So when he visited us in our home, I'm the only one that speaks to my at least the toddler in Bangla, which is our native language. Everyone else, I'm talking about his grandparents from both sides, my wife, and everyone else speaks to him in English. So, but what I realized today, when he picked up milk, he said it with his mom in English, and when he showed it to me, he said it to me in Bangla. So I'm like, it is the way you teach them is that you do your part and you leave the rest in the hands of Allah. You don't have to force, you just do your part. So if there is a dua that you need to say, Allahumma bismika amudahiya, yeah, you say it, whether he or she repeats it or not, or you say Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, before eating, after eating, whether they repeat it or not it's on them, but you encourage them, you do your part slowly, and inshallah, you leave the rest in the hands of Allah. Allahu Alam. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much. And let's hear from Sister Basmah.
So my closing remark is something that's very dear to my heart. And that is, as soon as you have children and then that child goes to school or leaves you in any way, It's like your own heart has been ripped out and is like walking around outside somewhere, and you can't like just keep it protected the way you want it to. And I think that is a parent's lifelong fear, right? Like something could just go wrong no matter what I do, right? Something can just go wrong. It's out of my hands. And I read this hadith once, and it just put so much into perspective for me. And the hadith was that, to abbreviate the hadith, there was a man recounting a dream that he had had to the Prophet ﷺ. And the dream was about, you know, a tall man, and there were children around him and in a garden. And the Prophet ﷺ said that tall man was Ibrahim alayhi salam, and those children are children who have already passed from this earth on the fitrah. And so basically, every child that we know who has left us with gaping holes in our hearts, they are all being taken care of, and they're being taken care of by one of the most beloved people to Allah. And so, as hard as it is, we have to remember that we can do everything that we're discussing here right now, and we should do all of it. And then we have to leave it to Allah, and He will take care of them.
Great. Thank you so much, Sister Basmah. And on behalf of Islamic Center of Southern California, our community members, I would like to thank you so much for both of you for this beautiful conversation. We really benefited. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and bless your family members. And then hopefully in the future, we will host you again, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you.
Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum. Good night. And dear brothers and sisters, I'm going to prepare the screen for our Aisha program, inshallah. We're going to pray Salat al-Aisha and then finish with the final prayer, inshallah. Thank you.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض، له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير. والذي خلقكم فمنكم كافر ومنكم مؤمن، والله بما تعملون بصير. خلق السماوات والأرض بالحق وصوركم فأحسن صوركم وإليه المصير. يعلم ما في السماوات والأرض ويعلم ما تسرون وما تعلنون، والله عليم بذات الصدور. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. يا أيها المزمل قم الليل إلا قليلا نصفه أو انقص منه قليلا أو زد عليه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا. إنا سنلقي عليك قولا ثقيلا. إن ناشئة الليل هي أشد وطئا وأقوم قيلا. إن لك في النهار سبحا طويلا واذكر اسم ربك وتبتل إليه تبتيلا. رب المشرق والمغرب لا إله إلا هو فاتخذه وكيلا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إياك نعبد وإياك غير المغضوب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. تحيات لله. شو لا إله إلا الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله. استغفر الله. استغفر الله العظيم الذي لا إله إلا هو. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام. تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. صدق الله العظيم. سبحان الله 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 سبحان الله. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. So before we start praying, I would like to mention two names. Please keep them in your prayers. Recently passed away, our beloved Dr. Lina's uncle passed away. His name is Dr. Mahi As-Sarraf. So please keep him in your prayers. And then also we had the funeral of Mr. Abdullah Bihairi. So please keep him as well in your prayers. Let us pray for all of them and then for ourselves, inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.
والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. اللهم اغفر لهم، اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم واعف عنهم وأكرم نزلهم ووسع مدخلهم واغسلهم بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقهم من الخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. اللهم ادخلهم الجنة، اللهم ادخلهم الجنة وأعذهم من عذاب النار، وأعذهم من عذاب النار. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. Oh Allah, please grant healings for those who are sick, and please have mercy upon the souls of Dr. Muhi Al-Sarraf and Mr. Abdullah al-Bihairi. Oh Allah, please forgive their shortcomings and mistakes and accept them in the highest level of paradise. Ameen. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. صدق الله العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our prayers, our du'as, dear brothers and sisters. Again, I would like to extend my condolences to the family members of both deceased, Dr. Lina and her beloved family members, and then also Buhairi family, our brother Khalid and sister Naveen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless their souls, inshallah, both of them, and accept them in the highest level of paradise. Again, so tomorrow is Friday. Have a blessed Friday, inshallah. Until I see you tomorrow, have a great night, sleep well and rest well, and please protect yourselves. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you and take care of yourselves again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.